Tesla shares, though, are shrugging off that comment. They moved higher on the initial Politico story, holding on to their 5% gain. Let's bring in Eamon Javers with more. And Eamon, I can't help it. When there's smoke, sometimes there's fire.
Yeah, Kelly, and part of the reason why the shares might be reacting that way is because Caroline Levitt is trying to do two things at once here with this tweet she just put out. On the one hand, she wants to call the Politico report. She does call the Politico report garbage. She says this quote-unquote scoop is garbage. Elon Musk and President Trump have both publicly stated that Elon will depart from public service as a special government employee when his incredible work at Doge is complete. So on the one hand, she's calling the report garbage, but on the other hand, she's essentially confirming the thrust of the report here, which is that Elon Musk will be leaving at the end of that 130-day period of time. And all of that is broadly consistent with that 130-day limit that we've known that's been in place for Musk's timeline as a special governmental employee. That limit is expected to be reached at the end of May, depending on how you count the days there. In February, officials close to the White House did tell Politico that Musk's timeline was indefinite and could, last longer than 130 days if Trump wanted to. But now there are these dueling pressures on Elon Musk, right? Enormous pressure on Tesla's stock since its post-election peak, as Musk's relationship with Trump has sparked Tesla protests and boycotts. And there's also a sense simultaneously in Washington that Musk is becoming more of a political liability for Trump than otherwise for this White House. Voters in Wisconsin yesterday rejecting Musk's involvement in the Supreme Court election there, allowing liberals to maintain a majority on the court, Kelly. So there are reasons why, if you were the White House, you might want to allow Elon Musk to leave at the end of that deadline. And I should say, even while we have the White House pushing back on that report while simultaneously sort of semi-confirming it, we also have NBC News now with a White House official confirming that President Trump did have this discussion with cabinet members in the cabinet meeting last month before bringing cameras in for the public version of that meeting. So the idea was he told cabinet members that Musk would be leaving in coming weeks and then brought in cameras to praise Elon Musk on camera, the portion of that meeting that we all saw in which he called Elon a patriot, Kelly.
So, and I do wonder, actually, if the loss in Wisconsin loses him political capital in the White House.
I think it definitely does. I mean, you're right to focus on that. And then this idea of how badly damaged Tesla's brand has been by Elon Musk's involvement here, sort of hasn't gone unnoticed by the Trump White House either. But I think Elon's status as the world's richest person and an enormous pocketbook for future Republican candidates, I think, makes him a little bit sui generis in this, in the sense that, a typical political figure might experience a reversal and they'd lose some credibility. But Elon is not a typical political figure, and he's got staying power that others don't have.
And Eamon, quickly, the White House has now confirmed that Amazon is a bidder for TikTok. Is that right?
Yeah, what we're seeing now is a report that Amazon has been confirmed, what they're calling as a bidder for TikTok. But what the reporting is that Amazon sent a letter to J.D. Vance saying that they want in on any TikTok deal. Not clear how seriously that's being taken inside the White House. The thing to point out here is that we don't yet have any evidence that TikTok is actually for sale, that the Chinese government would allow a sale or encourage one. And so this idea of, making a bid for TikTok, typically when you make a bid, you make it with the seller. In this case, this report is saying that they're making a bid with sort of the buyer's agent, if you will, which is the White House. So there's no indication that any TikTok sale is actually forthcoming. That deadline, April 5th, for the U.S. government to either ban TikTok or to arrange for a sale of its U.S. assets to a U.S. buyer. We'll see what Xi Jinping decides to do here at the end of the day, but he has a lot of incentive, Kelly, to hang on to this thing. And if he can't hang on to it, then to force the White House to take a big political hit by banning it themselves.
Exactly. Well, and Amazon shares and stocks broadly, Eamon, are at session highs. So we'll circle back to you on this in a little bit. We appreciate it. Eamon Javers in Washington.